Boom, alright, what's going on you guys? It's Royce Jacob. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are simply going to be talking about how the OGs that are Riot Blockchain and Marathon Digital Holdings are popping off. As you guys know, these two Bitcoin miners and the Waves fam go way back, so it's always exciting to see this type of price action. Let's talk about it. As always, we'll quickly go over each topic we're going to be discussing, and then we'll dive into each one individually. In front of us, TradingView, where we will talk technicals, price action, and price targets on the following names today. In this order, you guys know exactly what they are. Kicking it off, of course, with the king, with Bitcoin. Considering Riot and Mara are both Bitcoin miners, obviously, the price action of Bitcoin will have a significant impact on that of both Riot and Mara, all right? So, kick it off with the big dog, kick it off with Bitcoin. I'll let you guys know what I'm thinking in regard to Bitcoin. We'll move into Riot after that, and then we'll close it out with good old Mara, okay? So, keeping it short and sweet today, going to be spending the majority of our time on the charts in this video, but I do have one short article that I want to read through with you guys, titled, Riot Blockchain, the long-term growth story remains intact. The reason I want to read through this with you guys is just to remind ourselves of why we're fundamentally bullish on Riot in the first place. Obviously, both Riot and Mara share similar tendencies as companies, as Bitcoin miners. This one is focused on Riot. And again, you guys, I'm obviously bullish on Riot. The reason I said we're bullish is because I imagine you are as well. But as always, you guys, this is just my opinion. Always make your own decisions. You guys know the drill there. But this is a good article, and again, it just jog our memory of why we like Riot from a fundamental perspective in the first place. But again, other than this, we will be spending the majority of our time on the charts, pretty much the entirety of the video on the charts. And as always, before we dive in, I will ask you to please give a video a like if you do go on to gain value from it today, or if you are bullish on Bitcoin, Riot, and Mara like I am. Definitely long-term, still long-term bullish. Like the long-term prospects of these three plays are unchanged in my mind. The short-term, I will talk to you guys about the short term, but again, long term, like these are some of my favorite stocks in the entire market. You guys know that, okay? So, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, want to catch more content like this, want to follow the crypto journey and all the other sectors we cover here on the channel. And of course, lastly, please check out my complete portfolio daily newsletter, first link down in the description. That is $15 a month if you want a complete breakdown of my entire portfolio, call options, put options, stock positions, cryptocurrency positions that I do update every single trading day during market hours. And along with every update, I do send out a pretty comprehensive emailed newsletter with charts, with price targets, with rationale as to why I'm trading the way I'm trading on a daily basis, okay? So really appreciate it if you check that out, put a lot of time into that, and it means a lot if you do. But if not, as always, no worries. I appreciate you watching right now. So let's dive into the charts. We'll cover Bitcoin. I'll give you guys some of my thoughts on Bitcoin. We'll cover this article, and then we'll just close it out with both Riot and Mara on the charts, all right? So Bitcoin, get rid of that as always. That is just for aesthetic purposes. Bitcoin, breaking out, how we're going to break this down. So yesterday we covered the head and shoulders pattern, okay? This inverse potential head and shoulders, and that did end up playing out and actually broke above that and kind of broke out, okay? So head and shoulders pattern, inverse head and shoulders pattern once again. Shoulder, head, shoulder came above this level, so it did, this inverse head and shoulders did kick off on June 3rd. I would call it around $39,000, broke above that. Bitcoin actually earlier today reaching high of over $41,000. And if you guys just watched yesterday's video, actually, I was talking about how the one level I need to see is Bitcoin breaking above 41,000, but actually a 4-hour closure above 41,000 and more ideally a daily closure above 41,000. And at the time of recording, we did not see that, okay? So regardless, Bitcoin did come up to the top side of this channel, this sideways channel that I've had drawn forever, which I do like to see. But again, it still hasn't broken above it. It's still seeing a lot of resistance around this area that has acted as a ceiling in the past. And like the reason that these two lines are here are because historically, these have acted as ceilings and floors for Bitcoin just in the past, okay? So as always, you guys, when we are seeing corrections, when we're seeing parabolic rallies, when we're seeing volatility, always look at historic levels that have acted as either resistance or support, and that's what these two lines are, okay? So Bitcoin, again, still not necessarily short-term bullish yet. I do need to see, once again, a closure above 41K. At least, honestly, more specifically, I would say even above this level. So, like, the real level is going to be 43,000, okay? Once I see Bitcoin close a 4-hour or a daily, I would say above $43,000, that's when I'll actually flip bullish personally. Like, can Bitcoin rip? Can Bitcoin jump up 10% and just break through that tomorrow? Can Bitcoin see 50K and finally come to test this line of resistance on the downtrend where I've had this target drawn for forever, around $50,000? That is what I would feel is best case scenario. And I do want to say, you guys, such a big macro factor that is at play in the markets right now that I did cover the news out of this morning is going to be the Fed meeting on Wednesday, okay, where they're going to discuss rates. They're going to discuss pretty much everything regarding the US dollar. And as you guys know, if they do decide to slow down inflation, because in my opinion, at this point, inflation is getting pretty darn deliberate. It is a little in everyone's faces. Inflation is very, very present. It's at like 5% or something crazy like that, which is staggering. They want it at 2%. So, personally, if I was the Fed, I know I'm obviously not the Fed. I'm not JP. I'm not Raoul Pal. But if it were me and what I am expecting is going to happen, get out of here, flashback. Dan, sorry about that, you guys. But anyway, if I was the Fed, which I'm obviously not, once again, I would be working to slow things down, cool things down a little bit for a while. If you guys have been following along, I've thought the markets, specifically the equity markets, have felt a little overheated. We just saw new all-time highs in indices like the S&P, NASDAQ today. But again, you guys, things are so overheated right now, and I do think it is time for a correction. Once again, corrections are a healthy part of every bull market, like what we're seeing in Bitcoin. It gets rid of the weak hands, makes room for the strong long-term. And again, it allows for things to rationalize. When things are just going parabolic for a long time, it's hard to not be emotional and hard to stay rational. So when we do see corrections, it gives people time to, again, to educate themselves, to rationalize a little bit. And yeah, that's kind of the end of just that little fundamental. But I do want to say that meeting on Wednesday with the Fed is going to heavily impact pretty much everything in the market, the US dollar, and obviously everything that trades against the US dollar. If the US dollar does gain strength, specifically inflation hedges like Bitcoin, digital gold, will likely see some downside price action. Even though Bitcoin has seen a correction, it can still correct more, and that's very important to keep in mind as well. But again, that said, it can correct, but it can also go up. So 50K is kind of best case scenario right now for Bitcoin in my perspective. Worst case scenario for Bitcoin is going to be to revert to the mean. Say the Fed meeting goes poorly. I mean, I shouldn't say poorly. Because I'm kind of expecting it in a sense, that this Fed meeting will have a negative impact on just the greater markets. Again, equities, Bitcoin, cryptos, gold, silver, precious metals, literally everything aside from the US dollar. I do think it will have a negative impact on that. Therefore, I do skew to the fact of what I've also been saying for such a long time, that Bitcoin does still have to revert to the mean at some point, which means that after parabolic rallies, reverting to the mean is revisiting the initial high of that current rally, okay? And that is going to be around $24,000 or $25,000, what we saw back in December. The first real high after Bitcoin broke its 2017 highs of $20,000, okay? So I still stand by, and again, unless we see a break above $43,000, I still stand by the fact that it's more likely that we see $25,000 prior to $50,000. But again, you guys, that's just my opinion. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think. If you think that's ridiculous, if you think we're blasting straight to 50K, that's okay, but please rationalize it in the comments. Don't just get mad that I think Bitcoin's going to reach 25K first. Explain your reasoning, okay? So that is Bitcoin. Again, you guys, those are kind of like $43,000 is probably the one level that I can say that I'm keeping the closest eye on. If we see a 4-hour or daily closure above $43,000, that would flip me bullish on Bitcoin in the short term. Long term, obviously, my bullish sentiment remains intact, all right? So that's Bitcoin. Let's move on to good old Riot Blockchain, the OG, like the real OG. Oh, so much to Riot for both my net worth and my channel growth, I would say too. Okay, but before we do that, before we dive into the charts, have to establish, as always, the fundamental base layer for our bullish argument. Riot Blockchain, the long-term growth story remains intact. Bitcoin's price has dropped by 45% since all-time highs notched in mid-April. Of course, the drop in BTC's value will normally drag down companies operating in the Bitcoin ecosystem. As such, shares of Bitcoin miner Riot Blockchain have also significantly retreated over the past couple of months, dropping 50% since Bitcoin's peak. Even so, the share price might be on the back foot, but going by the latest production figures, the company is still exhibiting strong growth. Riot mined 227 BTC in May, a 220% year-over-year uptick. That is impressive. But again, you guys, when you're trying to gauge value, this is kind of the same thing I'm talking about when I talk about earnings and just valuations in general being kind of skewed. Keep in mind, when we were talking about Riot a year ago, I keep saying a year ago, and right now is about when Riot saw its like kind of first rally, but a year ago, Riot was around like $2, $3, $4, right? And it's still up even now. Like Riot being at $35, it's still 10x from current levels. So we're seeing a 2x in revenue in Bitcoin production, and that's amazing. But in terms of share price, we are still 10x as opposed to that 2x that actually represents value. So again, you guys, again, valuation, what is even value anymore? But I do just want, I do want you guys to kind of think that way, again, establish your own decision around it. But that is how I think in terms of like rationalizing fair value. Okay, and again, what is value anyway? But Riot Mined, 200, okay, right there. Riot Mined 227 BTC in May, a 220% year-over-year uptick, which at the current Bitcoin price of 35K, a little more now, 40K, amounts to around $8 million. When put together with April's 2006 mined Bitcoins through the first 2 months of the quarter, the company mined 433 Bitcoin. The figures are much better than last year's performance, but are just slightly below B. Riley's Lucas Pipe's prior estimates for Riot. The analyst had previously expected the company to mine 800 BTC in the second quarter, which necessitates a rethink on Pipe's part. And I quote, "As a result, we are adjusting our Q2 2021 production estimates to 764 Bitcoin," the five-star analyst said, before adding, "We would note that our estimate reflects the lower total network hash rate. Over the last week, it dropped from 154 to 123 exahashes. That said, Pipes thinks the recent drop in global network hash rate has been a major tailwind for North American miners. The analysts expect it will boost Riot's near-term production levels, and with the continued rig deployment, Riot expects an additional 1,000 S19 Pro AM miners will be shipped and installed by the quarter's end. The analyst believes the June production numbers will continue to grow. What's more, with the recent closure of the acquisition of Whinstone US from Northern Data, we'll just see the addition of a 100-acre facility with long-term access, 150 megawatts of power. Pipes remains, quote, encouraged by Riot's growth and strategic opportunities." So again, you guys, just to kind of remind ourselves on the progress that Riot is making on as a company, as I just said, that's amazing. 220% year-over-year growth is fantastic. But again, it all comes down to how to perceive value. That's what it is. It's not true value. It's not value investing. It is perceived value and obviously forward-looking growth, which Riot is looking very, very promising right now. Okay, so again, I want to make it very clear, still very long-term bullish on Riot and Mar, a lot of the plays in the crypto space that we've talked about here on the channel so much. But again, you guys, especially with the like Wednesday meeting is just revolving in the back of my head, just like ringing in the back of my head. So please, you guys, just proceed with caution. I'm still proceeding with caution personally. But again, seeing this type of price action on a stock that holds a dear place in my heart, I'd love to see it. Okay, so Riot, upside price target. We absolutely popped off today, gap straight up, and we're getting really, really close to this estimate, and it's actually playing out so well, and this very well might happen, which is pretty exciting to see. Again, this price target of $40 is based on these two very, very strong trend lines. Obviously, this purple trend line right here, that is the overall line of resistance on Riot's current downtrend beginning in mid-February, since Riot's seen this staggering correction once again. So very, very strong line of resistance. Every trader on the planet is looking at this line of resistance. So as always, you guys traders, especially with a stock with a market cap of Riot is currently sitting at a $3.4 billion market cap. Doesn't take much capital to alter the share price of this. Okay, so this price target can easily be willed into existence because everyone's looking at this freaking trend line, and it also again coincides with Riot's overall line of support on the overall uptrend. Okay, so arguably the two strongest trend lines, the two strongest macro trend lines for Riot do intersect exactly on June 16th or 17th, end of the day, I guess, June 16th. And if we do see this play out perfectly, which will be so satisfying, that would take us to a $40 Riot, which obviously from here is another pretty move up like we saw today. Okay, so that's Riot. Downside price target for Riot, say again the Fed meeting goes bad, say things start to correct more. Riot, similar to Bitcoin, still does have to revert to the mean, which it hasn't done. I would consider, I mean, you could even say like December of 2020, this is Riot's initial high around $10. I do not think at this point that is likely at all. I think Riot is far more valuable than that, and I don't think anyone would allow, unless we saw like a $20,000 Bitcoin, maybe a $10 Riot is feasible. But I would say that I do think a $20,000 Bitcoin is possible. I just think it's very unlikely. I think a 25K Bitcoin is, again, some of you may disagree with this, but I do think, again, just it's reversion to the mean. I played so many bubbles, I played so many FOMO rallies, played so many hype cycles. Reversion to the mean happens almost every single time we see this happen. Okay, see corrections. All right. So Riot, I do think the downside, again, I've been saying this for a while now, a reversion to the mean in my mind would be about $15 to $16, the initial real high of Riot's rally. Okay, so $15 to $16 is my downside price target. If that happens, I'm throwing my entire bag, throwing the whole net worth at Riot. I'm just kidding, but I'll be very, very like, I'd be honestly so pumped to see a $15 Riot again. But again, upside price target is gonna be $40. I think that's very, very likely because these are two very strong trend lines, and we're pretty much there already. Okay, so that is Riot Blockchain. Let's close it out with good old Mara Moon. Mara again gapped right above this level. That is a very, very important level. And again, yesterday I was talking about this kind of this macro funky head and shoulders pattern kind of playing out. I don't have any drawings here, but shoulder, massive head, big old fat head, and then right shoulder. So Mara did kind of break that for what could be, and again, this is a very abstract head and shoulders pattern, arguably not a head and shoulders pattern at all. But again, you guys, patterns, it's just patterns. Like, although it isn't a textbook head and shoulders by any means, it's psychology. It's visual psychology. Okay, so that's what patterns are. That's why patterns work a lot of the time. Okay. So, again, anyway, Mara literally gapped right above this ceiling that I've had drawn for a while now. Gapped right above that. Best case scenario for Mara is going to be, I mean, at this point, Mara, this line of support was so strong. It did act as a very, very strong line of resistance on the bounce around early May, late April, early May for Mara. So it would make sense if Bitcoin does rip, if Bitcoin goes on to reach new all-time highs, maybe Mara does see this trend line hit. If that happens, end of July, and maybe it takes a while, like end of July, this would take us to $60, which is a new all-time high for Mara. Obviously, for Mara at $30, that's a 2x. So best case scenario is going to be this trend line comes into play right now, like short term. Actually, I want to go to the 5 minutes. It's very rare we do this, but I want to close it out with this because this is kind of something I saw in almost every single this isn't what I'm talking about right here. That's a crazy gap up, man. That's an impressive gap up. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Riot and Mara, all the Bitcoin miners, a lot of crypto stocks. Obviously, a lot of people got very trigger happy at market open. That's why I always trade around this time, you guys. If you're part of the portfolio newsletter, you guys know that. I always trade in the last few hours of the day. I've never liked trading market open, okay? So you see everyone got a little trigger happy, a little way too excited, sold off over the course of the day. But let's see if I can bring it up on Riot. I mean, Riot looks pretty much exactly the same. What was I looking at? I was looking for a head, like I was seeing a lot of like head and shoulders patterns playing out. I can't, wait, I moved that. I don't know why I can't find it. Sorry, guys. I mean, I just completely stuffed that. Sorry, you guys. But let's go. You know what? We'll close it out with the daily. Just go completely opposite, just because I scuffed that entire short term. I swore on. It might have been different sectors. Sorry, guys. I do look at a lot of stocks over the course of the day. I thought there was some head and shoulders playing out in the crypto stocks, but I guess not. My bad. I mean, I guess the 4-hour Stokes on the daily, the 4-hour for Riot and Mara are all high. Like, everything's pretty overextended, even Bitcoin right now. So Bitcoin, 4-hour Stokes, I don't talk about these all that much, but this is obviously one of the few indicators I use because I do put a lot of weight on it in terms of swinging. So Bitcoin right now, you can see the 4-hour Stokes, the red crossed over the blue, and it's curling down. That usually leads to more downside, more shorter term downside. Bitcoin right now, if we do come back down, let's go to the hourly now. This is kind of a head and shouldersy pattern, I guess. I mean, not really. If Bitcoin does end up coming back down to around 38.9, like so 38.8, I will say I do think it's very likely that it will play out a head and shoulders pattern. So obviously, left shoulder, head, maybe go sideways for a little bit and then sell off and resolve the head and shoulders pattern around $36,000 if that does play out. And again, I think that's very, very likely, especially considering I'm sus on kind of the Fed meeting on Wednesday, as I was talking about in the beginning, okay? So, again, you guys will be following these over the course of the week. It's very, very exciting times. Regardless of which way we go, it's always exciting to see this type of price action, to see this volatility in names that we've been following for so long, because there's always a bull market somewhere, you guys. There's always ways to make money if things are going up or down. And, again, for plays like Riot and Mara, like, I just hold, like, at this point in time, I'm just doing longs on these guys, but it will be exciting to see if some of these levels that I'm really eyeballing are broken, how I'm going to choose to trade them, and I'm excited to kind of navigate these waters if I do see some of these levels broken, okay? So we'll call the video there, you guys. Again, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about Riot Blockchain, Marathon Pound Group, and Bitcoin at this moment in time. If you're bullish, if you're bearish, if you're picking up a bag, if you just made a big old bag today, please let me know in the comments down below. Cheers to that. Go pop some champagne, eat some Wagyu, eat some sushi. You guys know the drill. But we'll call it there, you guys. I'll catch you downstairs in the comments. And until next time, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace.